Hello and a very warm welcome for the first time to the Pertamina Mandalika International Street Circuit in Indonesia. It's Jack Appleyard and Simon Crafar here, and what an honour it is to be here for MotoGP's very first visit. The first time we're back in Indonesia in a quarter of a century. 25 long years later, we're finally back in Indonesia. And Simon, let's just take a look over our shoulder. What a privilege it is to be here. What a setting, what a circuit. It truly is a remarkable place.
I've got to be straight up and say I think it's got as much, if not more, natural beauty than any racetrack we go to. I mean, Mugello's a stunner.
It is, yeah.
And Mugello's more groomed, but this natural beauty, like with the sea and the jungle and hills, is, I think, the winner of the natural beauty of racetracks we go to.
It's incredible. We are privileged to go to some amazing places around the world. You mentioned Mugello, Austria, Austin as well, beautiful for different reasons, but we can see the jungle meets the beach. It's literally just a stone's throw in that direction, so we can cool off on Sunday night with a quick dip as well. It's just got everything. But let's talk about the circuit. We know the setting is brilliant. The circuit itself, you've seen it for the very first time in the flesh today. What do you make of it?
Yes, Jack Miller and I got to do a few laps. Keep an eye out for that video. A few laps, and we got his impression, and my impression out there was there is not many hard braking, like two straight hard straight line braking, and that's turn 1 and turn 10. So there's not a lot, which I think is good. You know, it's a flowing circuit. The next thing I noticed was bravery turns, because just after you do the hard braking in turn 1, you build up speed, and there's some serious bravery turns there, meaning some of them not even rolling off the throttle. You turn in and run through, it's not going to be full, but you're going to be on the throttle with no brakes, some of them, running through these really fast turns. And that obviously made me look at runoff. It's huge. Behind the camera here, massive distance, so safety's good. Then some of those fast turns, there's a few different styles, like meaning some of them you stay on the throttle through, others you stay on the throttle, go in, and then you need to brake on an angle. So there's a lot of turns where you're on the throttle leaned over, you're forced to, so that means some big slides. I think there are going to be some really impressive slow-mo sideways here,
Which is what we want to see.
yeah. And there's going to be some front-end losers, because like the last turn, it's a lot like Argentina, where it's kind of reducing radius. You go in there on the throttle, and then you've got to choose a spot to brake leaned over, and there's quite a few of them. I'll be honest, I love the layout. I think most riders are going to, I would say majority riders are going to love this circuit.
I think mostly because it looks like it's going to pose a challenge to them, a real technical challenge. Their ability is going to be tested to the max here with a number of corners that really will bring the best out of them. I would like to say it's the sort of circuit where the cream will rise to the top.
Yeah, and what will make good racing, I think, is that it, like all flowing circuits, which this is, it makes for good racing because the bikes with the most horsepower don't get the same advantage. There's very few turns that you come out, it's the last turn really, is the only one that you come out of onto a straight, which is just straight engine performance. The rest is like, for example, Silverstone, where it's tricky, you're managing the rear tyre as you come onto those straight sections, which I think is great because it makes it a more even playing field and back in the rider's hands. I'd like to point out that I think because it's so much turning and flowing and throttle connection and feeling the rear tyre, and I think it's going to be an inline circuit slightly, well, they're going to be stronger than usual here. So that's what I mean, evens it out, maybe even favours the Yamaha and the Suzuki.
So the inlines, of course, being the Yamahas and the Suzukis, that fast-flowing nature is what we're used to seeing them be pretty successful at. Looking at this final corner, it's always a question I want to know, Simon. Is there a chance we can see someone diving up the inside here. It is very, very similar to Argentina, but just looks like there's that little bit more room for them to maybe pull alongside and have a dive through.
I would say to get the ultimate lap in, you don't want to pass before that corner because you need to be on the paint to get the run down that the start-finish straight. But you've seen it happen, and I think it's very similar. A little bit bigger, but very similar to Aragon, where you're the right, left, and onto the big long straight. And I thought, it wouldn't be a good place to pass, but people do. And there's more room here, so yeah, it's definitely possible. And there's not much of a run to where the checkered flag is. So yeah, I think real good chance, last lap, stuff someone into the last corner and hopefully beat them to the line. That'll be what they're thinking.
Music to my ears. That's always a big tick off the checklist when you come to a circuit. Can we see a last lap, last corner overtake? So
the other thing I'd like to throw in is grip. Heard from the Superbike guys that the grip level's phenomenal, especially in the wet. But yeah, surface looks really good. So safety, surface, awesome layout.
You speak of the Superbike riders there. Obviously, they've had the opportunity of testing this in November of last year. When a rider, the MotoGP guys in particular, are preparing to tackle this for the first time tomorrow morning, what is the sort of process they'll go through to make sure they can be as ready as possible? I'm sure some of them who have connections in the World Superbike paddock might have picked up the phone. Yes.
I got to chat to a lot of crew chiefs this afternoon, and that's what I asked them. What are the challenges coming to a brand new circuit with no data, and your rider doesn't know it, And they say, for example, Ducati, Aprilia, and Honda, Yamaha guys all said they spoke to their Superbike teams and got gearboxes, speeds, they're not the same machines, but it gives them a insight on where, with the speeds, where the GP gearbox can start tomorrow, so they're not going completely blind. They've got an idea from Superbike guys. Then what they told me was they look at sections of the circuit, break it down to section, goes, oh, that's like Argentina, oh, that's like Misano, and they use those sections to get an idea where to set up all the strategies, meaning for wheelie control, for electronic, for sliding, because they can do it per section. It's like technical job. And they said with all this data, they get a setting to start with. A few of them said, we'll go a little bit softer, chassis-wise. We'll use a base setting, go a little bit softer, because that gives rider confidence faster. Because when you're going, I know from experience, when you're going a little bit slower, the bike feels too hard. And then you go, feels like it's going to let go, bumpy. And a softer bike gives you confidence to go faster, and then you'll complain to the crew chief and go, it needs to be harder, which is a better way to do it than start hard, go, it doesn't feel good. So what they said is they'll quickly, by half day, they will have a really good idea, because the rider will be up to speed then, whether the gearbox is right, needs changing, and strategies, meaning electronic settings.
And of course, all of this is going on in the background as the teams not only prepare for when we come back here in a month's time, but the 21 race MotoGP calendar. There's still some decisions to be made on aero packages and other technical parts as well that the factories weren't able to officially lock down in Sepang. So that's a real challenge at a circuit they've got no prior data at.
You're dead right. Well, basically, it's so little testing this year that every lap counts for them, and it's hard to decide anything it's concrete until your rider's up to speed. So the first half day, they're not going to be testing anything. They're trying to get up to speed, and let's hope it doesn't rain after that, because it's kind of rainy season, and the guys have got the pressure on. All of the manufacturers got the pressure on to get as much data, much testing as possible, quality stuff before we head to Qatar.
And as you've said, it is rainy season. We have seen a rain shower today, and when it rains, it pours here. Let me guarantee you that. The forecast doesn't look too great, but fingers crossed those clouds can stay away and we can get 3 full days of action here for the first time in Mandalika. Simon, thank you for joining us. We'll be back with you tomorrow, an hour earlier than in Sepang. The time has changed ever so slightly. We're now 9 while 5 testing rather than 10 while 6 in Sepang, so you can adjust your phones, all your alarms to make sure that you're ready for us at 1 o'clock local time here in Indonesia for a catch up on social media, and then 4:30 local time we'll be live on MotoGP.com for After the Flag, where Simon's feature with Jack Miller, the pair of them having a spin in a car earlier on today, will be on the programme, and you don't want to miss that one. Jack in fine form as ever. Simon, thank you for joining us. We're going to strip down to our speedos and dip into the sea to make sure we're nice and ready for tomorrow's action.